Hello, UCAR. Peter Christensen here, coming to you from the CEO's desk. I told you last video that might be the last video about the property condition disclosure document. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to sneak one more in here. I had a really good question from a viewer. That sounds fancy to say. A viewer. We have a viewer. So thank you, David, for the question. And it has to do with Section 23 and 24, Sections 23 and 24, talking about public infrastructure districts, PIDs. Is that how you say it? PIDs. This is a relatively new concept in Utah. It came about 3 years ago, I think. And since 2020, I have a hard time keeping track of time. I think it was about 3 years ago. And basically what it is, so Section 23 asks specifically about public infrastructure districts. And then 24 includes it in a list of other things to disclose. And what it is, it's you could think of it as just an additional property tax. I mean, it's a little more complex than that. It's basically a way for a city and developer to finance the infrastructure that is needed for whatever improvements or development is going on. And so think of anything that the city or government will own afterwards. So the sewer lines, the water lines, whatever. And it's a way to finance that rather than someone having to come up with the money at the time. And so it allows basically the owner of the property to work with the government entities to say, we agree in sort of a bond format to pay an additional property tax paying off this infrastructure improvement. So it's another tool used by government to help with development. And it's important to know if you have one of those attached to the property. And so any buyer buying into that development, a portion of it, the whole thing, whatever the case may be, there could be additional tax in the form of a PID bond or a bond issued by a public infrastructure district. So and they're a little tricky because they're very much statute kind of gives some general guidelines, but then the city and the property owners can negotiate and come up with their own sort of deal. So they're not going to be all uniform, I guess is what I'm saying. That's my understanding, at least, is that there can be some variation amongst different PIDs that are out there. So that's what it is. Brief explanation. That's barely scratching the surface. This is not a video on how to create one or structure one. This is whether it's a good idea or not. This is simply to let you know what it's talking about and why it matters. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Remember, this is not specific legal advice. This is legal information only. If you need specific legal advice, please contact your attorney. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for the suggestion on a topic.